2 years ago, I released a video on this channel exploring the on-screen evolution of one of Christmas's most iconic characters, Ebenezer Scrooge. At the time, I thought I'd created the definitive history of A Christmas Carol, looking at the story's history, some key performances, and how Scrooge has forever affected festive cinema, even in movies that aren't adaptations of Dickens' work. However, in the comments section, you let me know that there had been some pretty important oversights. I also posed the question, who is your favourite Scrooge? And you answered. In fact, you flooded the comments with forgotten performances, obscure adaptations, beloved childhood favourites, and more passionate opinions than I ever expected. So today I am returning to this topic to evaluate all of your feedback. In this video, I'll be breaking down every major Scrooge that I missed the first time around, from darker interpretations to classic animated versions, and I'll be counting down your definitive top 10 Scrooge performances, completely voted for by you in the comments. So stay tuned for that at the end of this video. If you haven't already seen the original episode yet, you can find a link in the description and the pinned comment below. But before we dive into this festive follow-up episode, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to WN Movie Talk for more film breakdowns, retrospectives, and nostalgia-flavoured analysis. But without further ado, let's hop back into the discussion of Ebenezer Scrooge, starting with those versions of Scrooge that I failed to mention. First up is the 1938 version of A Christmas Carol starring Reginald Owen. This one appears to be a real favourite among classic film fans, and judging by the comments, a lot of you grew up with it too. It's definitely a more polished, Hollywood-friendly take on Dickens, but Owen's transformation is genuinely heartfelt. The film was originally intended for Lionel Barrymore, who famously played Scrooge on radio each year, but he dropped out due to health issues, and so Reginald Owen stepped in. Married couple Jean and Kathleen Lockhart played the Cratchits. Their family performance adds weight to the roles, but some say that perhaps Jean Lockhart had a little too much weight to the role to portray the poor Bob Cratchit. Like many studio adaptations of the time, this version takes a few liberties, expanding Fred's romantic storyline, making the Ghost of Christmas Past young and glamorous, and even having Scrooge fire Bob Cratchit outright instead of just threatening him. But despite these changes, this film has endured as a proper Christmas comfort watch for generations, and based on your comments, it absolutely deserved a place on the list. Now, this next entry from 1962 genuinely blindsided me, Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. Not only did this version not pop up during my research for the original video, but it certainly wasn't part of my own childhood either. Whether it was a much bigger deal across the Atlantic in the States, I don't know, but judging by the sheer number of comments, clearly a lot of you grew up with this version. Mr. Magoo was a popular American cartoon character from the 1950s and 60s, voiced by comedic actor Jim Backus. His whole comedic shtick was being stubborn, charmingly oblivious, and almost dangerously short-sighted, usually misunderstanding everything around him with total confidence. This special presents Magoo as an actor playing Scrooge on stage, which gives it a fun, meta-theatrical twist. The songs, written by Jules Stein and Bob Merrill, are genuinely memorable, and for many of you, this was the version that introduced you to Dickens. And yes, a lot of you said that The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come absolutely terrified you as children, so clearly it made an impression. Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol was the first ever animated Christmas TV special, airing 2 years before Rudolph and 4 years before the animated Grinch, so it was a proper trailblazer. And even though it wasn't part of my own festive upbringing, the volume of comments proved that for a huge slice of viewers, this animated musical is a deeply beloved Christmas tradition. Another name that came up again and again in the comments was Patrick Stewart. A lot of you were surprised that I didn't mention his 1999 TV film version. And honestly, fair enough, Stewart's take is one of the most serious, grounded interpretations out there. At the point of recording, I hadn't seen it. But that doesn't mean it should have been omitted. Stewart had actually been performing A Christmas Carol as a one-man stage show for years before the film, playing every character himself, shifting voice and posture for each role. So by the time this adaptation was made, he knew the material inside and out, approaching Scrooge as a deeply damaged, emotionally repressed human being, which gives his performance a darker, more psychological edge than many screen versions. The 1999 production leans heavily into Dickens' original text. It's a colder version which feels deliberately stripped back. There's no big musical numbers, no gimmicks, no cosy Victorian gloss. It's just Dickens delivered straight. Several of you commented that this version has an emotional intensity that you don't get elsewhere, and that Stewart's controlled, simmering performance makes his eventual transformation feel genuinely earned. So yes, this one absolutely deserved a place in this follow-up video and clearly holds a special place in the hearts of many of you who discovered A Christmas Carol through Stewart's commanding take on the role. Another version of The Christmas Carol that was brought up a lot in the comments was the 2019 BBC FX miniseries. And let's be honest, this one is different. Starring Guy Pearce as Ebenezer Scrooge, this takes A Christmas Carol into a much darker, more psychological direction than most people expect. And that really split opinion in the comments. Guy Pearce plays Scrooge not just as a miser, but as a genuinely damaged, morally rotten man, someone shaped by real trauma and cruelty. A far harsher portrait than Dickens wrote, and the story dives deep into the bleakest corners of his past, sometimes a bit too deep. One of the most controversial changes is the moment where Bob Cratchit's wife is put in a position where she feels she has to sell herself to Scrooge to save Tiny Tim. That gives you an idea of how far this adaptation pushes things. The whole production aims to reframe the story for modern audiences, leaning into psychological horror, social commentary and a very gritty version of Victorian London. Several of you also highlighted how much more prominent Marley is here, played by Stephen Graham, and how Andy Serkis brings an eerie, unsettling presence to the ghost of Christmas past. Some of you absolutely loved this reinterpretation, calling it bold, brave, refreshingly untraditional. Others, myself included, felt it went so far from the spirit of Dickens that it sometimes stopped feeling like A Christmas Carol altogether. It's hardly an annual staple worth revisiting for that feeling of festive joy. Either way, it's clearly made an impact and it absolutely deserved a place in this follow-up video. Whether you loved it or hated it, the Guy Pearce version proves that the story of Scrooge is still being reshaped today, and sometimes in unexpected ways. Now that was the main versions that were pointed out to me by you guys, but there's loads more and we don't have enough time to cover them all. But before we jump into your definitive top 10 Scrooge performances, here are a few rapid fire honourable mentions that you brought up again and again in the comments. Clearly there is no shortage of Scrooges out there. Henry Winkler in An American Christmas Carol. Quite a few of you highlighted this Depression-era retelling, with Henry Winkler playing a Scrooge-like character named Benedict Slade. It's not a direct adaptation, but the emotional beats are all there, and for a surprising number of viewers, this was actually their first ever Scrooge. The 1971 Richard Williams animated version. Beautifully crafted, highly regarded and animated with incredible detail. And yes, Alistair Sim returned to voice Scrooge once again. Rich Little's Christmas Carol. This one came up more than I expected. Rich Little plays every role as a different celebrity impression, including W.C. Fields as Scrooge and Richard Nixon as Marley. It's chaotic, bizarre and apparently has a dedicated cult following. Ross Kemp in A Christmas Carol from 1999, a modern British retelling set on a gritty housing estate with Kemp as a loan shark version of Scrooge. A few of you championed this one very passionately, and I admire your commitment. And then we have so many other versions mentioned that proves A Christmas Carol pops up everywhere, from The Odd Couple to Looney Tunes, The Flintstones, Sesame Street, The Smurfs, Barbie, Doctor Who. The list is endless. Some of these are surprisingly heartfelt, some are completely ridiculous, but all of them show just how universal the story of Scrooge has become. But now, it's the moment that you've all been waiting for, the definitive top 10 countdown of Scrooge performances as voted by you. However, before we dive into the countdown, do me a quick favour. Hit like if you've enjoyed this video so far, and drop us a comment below if any of the versions mentioned are among your favourites. And please subscribe to WN Movie Talk so you never miss the next film breakdown or Christmas classic retrospective. Alright, so let's get into the big one. The top 10 Scrooge performances as voted by you. Number 10, starting us off, Henry Winkler in An American Christmas Carol from 1979. Number 9, Jim Carrey from the 2009 motion captured version of A Christmas Carol directed by Robert Zemeckis. It's dark, it's theatrical and occasionally unsettling, but Carrey's performance blends humour with real menace. Number 8 is Bill Murray from Scrooged. Murray brings a wonderfully cynical 80s energy to the story, playing a ruthless TV executive who gets a supernatural wake-up call, and it's become a modern cult Christmas favourite for many. Number 7 is Patrick Stewart. Stewart's 1999 TV film is loved for its faithfulness to Dickens. His Scrooge is serious, grounded and emotionally precise, and that resonated strongly with many of you. Number 6 is Reginald Owen. MGM's 1938 classic has a huge nostalgic appeal. Owen's Hollywood-friendly Scrooge is gentler and warmer than Dickens' original, but its transformation is sincere, and the Lockhart family as the Cratchits give the film that cosy charm that many of you hold dear. Number 5, Michael Caine. Caine's performance in The Muppets Christmas Carol works because he plays it with total sincerity. He treats Kermit and Miss Piggy like genuine scene partners, giving the film its emotional core. It's funny, musical and surprisingly moving, and a favourite for generations. Number 4 is Mr. Magoo. A major surprise for viewers outside the US, but a huge nostalgia bomb for those who grew up with it. Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol from 1962 was the very first animated Christmas special. You mentioned it constantly in the comments and it's made it to number 4. Number 3 is Albert Finney from the 1970 musical Scrooge. Finney is beloved for his expressive, transformative performance as Scrooge, playing both the young and the old Scrooge. It's energetic, it's emotional, and the film is filled with memorable musical numbers. This version remains a festive staple for many of you. Number 2 is George C. Scott from his 1984 portrayal as a powerful, stern, yet intensely human Ebenezer Scrooge. Many of you consider his performance the definitive modern Scrooge. He's grounded, complex, and delivered with absolute authority. His redemption arc feels genuine, and that's why he sits firmly at number 2. But your all-time favourite Scrooge, as voted by you in the comments of my previous video, is none other than Alistair Sim. At the very top, by a massive landslide, Alistair Sim from the 1951 classic. For the overwhelming majority of you, Sim is Ebenezer Scrooge. His performance captures every nuance, the bitterness, the fear, the humour and the joy, and remains the gold standard by which all other Scrooges are measured.